Hermanos! ¿Qué pasa?
Bienvenido. Today we're going to make burrito bowl. Very simple, delicious. It's in essence, it's component cooking. We're going to make a chili guacamole salsa. We're going to serve it with wholemeal couscous.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. And it's coming to you with loads of Mexican pizzazz.
It's going to take 10 minutes, cost you about a tenner, and it is epic.
Here
Here we
It's
go.
going to take us 12 minutes.
Okay, 12 minutes.
Anyway.
First step, we're going to make the chili. So in a non-stick frying pan, put it on
High heat.
So we're going to add our oil to the pan. The pan's lovely and hot now. So we're going to add in the base. So we have 1 red onion, 2 cloves of garlic, and 1 green chili.
So you could use a red chili. We just found a green one and that was it. This is kind of the base flavour, so the undertone of the dish.
Okay, we're going to leave them cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. While they are, Dave's going to prep the veg. So while that's cooking, I'm going to prepare our couscous. Wholemeal couscous will typically take about 5 minutes to cook. You can serve it with any starch you want, but this is ideal. So I have 300 grams of wholemeal couscous. So typically it's 100 grams per person. I'm going to add in a generous pinch of salt.
So the only difference between wholemeal and white is that obviously the wholemeal is higher in fibre.
I'm going to add a little bit of oil. It's just going to add more calories and make it a little bit nicer. My twin brother's going to mix that around.
Yes, he is. Thank you. Anything else?
No, perfect. You could impart a lot more flavors if you want, but I want to keep it neutral because in essence, this is going to be the starch. It's going to dilute the strong flavor, the chili, the salsa, and the guacamole.
You could put like ground cumin or smoked paprika or
turmeric.
those. Yeah.
So level that out, just level it out. We boil the kettle here and you're just going to pour in boiling water just until it's submerged and it's kind of like half a centimetre over it. It's covered with boiling water.
Literally, I'll put it behind me, I'll put a lid
There
on
you
top of it for 5 minutes and leave it set. While our onions and garlic are frying away, I've just prepped our veg. We're going with fast cooking veg, so the nature of a chili that's going to take 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to need fast cooking veg. I've grated a carrot, that's really it.
Just 1 medium-sized carrot.
I'm going to add them to the pan with a nice pinch of salt.
What the carrot's going to do is that's going to bring, carrot is the second sweetest of all veg, and what the carrot's going to do is that's going to help offset some of the acidity in the tomatoes.
And we're going in with 1 red pepper. I think pepper goes really well in chilies. The red obviously gives a nice pop of colour, and we'll use any other fast cooking veg, whether courgette, whether spinach, sugar snaps, munch too, yellow pepper.
Mushrooms. Mushrooms go great as well too. Again, this is all cooking at a high heat because we want it to brown as quickly as possible, indicating caramelization and flavour development. So while that's on, I'm just going to add in some spices because a chili, the very nature of a chili is there's lots of spices. So at the base we have some chili, some fresh chili. I'm going to add in some black pepper. So I've got half a teaspoon of black pepper, and half a teaspoon does seem like a lot, but it's great.
Smoked paprika goes fab in any kind of chili. It gives that kind of oxtaily note, kind of meaty. Make sure and go with about half a teaspoon. It's quite strong, smoked paprika.
Ground cumin, one of our favourite and so kind of synonymous with Mexican cooking. I'm going to go with 1 tablespoon. I'm going to go with 1.5 tablespoons. So a good generous amount. If you are going to use cumin seeds, try to grind them up because ideally you want them to disperse throughout the dish here. And I've got ground coriander. I'm going to go in with about 1 tablespoon. Equivalent of 1 tablespoon.
Beautiful. So as soon as they hit the pan, they're going to start warming up. You'll start getting a lovely aromatic smell in the room. Okay, so our veg is browned off. That's probably taken another 2 minutes. It's time to add our sauce. We're using 2 tins of chopped tomatoes. It's just going to be the base of the tomato sauce. This one's actually whole cherry tomatoes, so I'll just mash them up with a wooden spoon and it'll
so just mash them up and add nice texture to it.
So that's about 800 ml of chopped tomatoes altogether. I've got 2 tins of beans. I'm using, these are 400 gram tins, net weight 230, so I'm going with approximately 500 grams of drained beans.
So we have a combination here. We've gone with black bean and kidney beans. Go with whatever type of beans or pulses you like. Just make sure they're obviously pre-cooked and tinned.
In terms of right before you're towards the end, I'm going to go in with juice of a lime. Just going to give a nice kind of acidic note, which is extremely synonymous, of course, with any Mexican cooking and burritos, etc.
And when you are using your lime, try to bring it at the end of the dish because you don't want that kind of fresh vitality to cook off too much.
And I think something which just goes incredibly well in any type of chili is coriander, aka cilantro. People are lovers or haters. I think it's approximately 10% of people hate coriander.
So if you hate it, obviously leave it out and just replace with the likes of flat parsley, maybe use chive.
Basil even might work fine. And I'm going to add in the other half of the lime now. So that's it, our chili's done. Bingo.
Final thing just before with the chili is just to taste and adjust the seasoning. So when we're adjusting seasoning, we're looking for the 5 basic mother seasonings, if you will. So there's salt, there's sweet, there's acid, there's bitter, and there's umami. Umami is going to come from the tomatoes, and we could put soy sauce, but it's not typically in a chili, and I feel like we're insulting a chili person or a Mexican person. So we're gonna got a nice teaspoon of salt there.
I'd
Generous
say at least
teaspoon.
1.5.
Okay, right, so we've gone with 1.5 teaspoons of salt.
Mix and taste together.
The acid is coming from the tomatoes, it's also coming from the lime juice, the umami is coming from the tomatoes, the sweetness is generally coming from the onion and the carrot are going to bring the sweetness. So in essence, we're trying to find harmony in the base flavouring. Yep.
Yum. Okay, cool.
Lovely. So we're going to turn the heat down on that and just allow that just to cook and stew for 5 minutes while we make our salsa and our guacamole.
Okay, so guacamole, we're gonna start with 2 avocados. These are Hass avocados. And just make sure, Hass avocados are the ones that are black and crocodile skinned.
Oh, lovely.
Obviously ripe. Make sure if you're not used to using chopping avocados, chop them on a board, because they say the biggest food-related injury is avocado hand, where people chop it like so and the knife goes through and cuts their hand. So just chop them on a board to avoid it. So we're just gonna mix it all together in a bowl. So these are really nice and ripe, kind of buttery avocados. So yeah, getting ripe avocados is essential to guacamole. Okay, so we've got 2 avocados in a bowl. We're gonna go in with 1 clove of garlic. I mostly finely diced it. 1 clove I think is more than enough.
We're going with a generous pinch of salt, starting with about 1/3 of a teaspoon, and then I'm going to adjust the seasoning as we get closer to it.
A lime is going to be really important, or lemon, some form of citrus is going to help break down the cell walls, is going to bring it together and add the kind of liquid which is essential in guacamole.
And also help cut through the fat. Instead of going with, we already have cumin powder in this and we have kind of a lot of similar spices. We want to keep this more lighter. We're not going to put onion in because there's onion in the salsa. So we're going to put some cumin seed, so it's going to add a bite. So I'm going with about 1 teaspoon of cumin seed.
And I think a little bit of coriander goes great, just a tiny little bit. So this is a slightly different guacamole. So I'm going to pop in our coriander or cilantro. And finally, I think a really nice ingredient just to give a pop of color is a little bit of chili. Obviously finely chop it, but it'll just give a pop of color. And then finally, it's just a matter of mashing it all together. And kind of bringing it, folding it together really, or mashing it, depending on how ripe your avocados are. Okay, so time to make my salsa. I'm going to take half a red onion. I'm going to finely slice it into little cubes. Okay, so we managed to get a beautiful kind of little tub of different colored tomatoes. So I'm going to chop them in half and add these in. Beautiful. I've got orange, red, and yellow ones. Divine, looking really sweet and yummy.
I'm also going to make this salsa slightly different. We want to make it kind of light because we got our chili, which is nice and kind of tomatoey, kind of strong flavor. We got guacamole strong. This will help add lightness, softness, kind of add a different variety of texture. So I'm just going to show a simple way of making it look a little bit more aspirational. Take a grater, or a peeler, sorry, and just peel some random bits. So it's going to look like a zebra cucumber when we slice it.
The cucumber's great, it's going to give out a moisture because obviously now there isn't really much moisture in that. I think I'm going to go with 1 full large tomato as well.
Nice pinch of salt will help the cucumber release a good bit of moisture, and it'll also help the tomatoes similarly release a bit of moisture, which will help the moisture will help hold the dish together because at the moment it's lots of kind of individual components.
Disjointed individual parts.
So in our salsa I'm going to add a little bit of ground cumin. I'm going to go with about 1 teaspoon, so that's 1/3 of a tablespoon.
Yeah, I was thinking it doesn't really work so well as a bunch of disjointed ingredients. I prefer a community of ingredients. So I'm just going to add a little bit of lemon. It's going to help break down the cell walls and bring it all together. Obviously use lime if you had lime. And finally, it's just a matter of kind of slightly mashing it and bringing it together.
And again, there's many different varieties of salsa. Some people will use tomato puree or tomato concentrate as the base. We deliberately wanted this salsa. Salsa, obviously in English meaning the word sauce. We wanted this to be kind of light, fresh, almost like a salad-like selection of components. So it's quite contrasting to the others because we don't want it to be too like a chili. We want it to be fresh, we want it to be vital, we want it to have a little bit of zing from that acid and keep it simple.
Okay, so now just to put it all together, it's literally taken us 15 minutes.
So this will serve at least 3 people, so I'm going to go with a nice generous. So with our couscous, you'll see it kind of tends to stick together, so just gently kind of puff it up again and release it. I'm going to add in about 100 grams at least, 150 grams of starch. You could use brown rice, you could use wholemeal couscous, you could use quinoa, any type of a starch of choice.
The guacamole looks fab, the kind of fleck of red pepper, the chili pepper looks great in it. I'm going to pop a little bit just to the side. Beautiful.
Nice generous portion of chili.
And then finally we're going to go with a good portion of salsa. The salsa is going to give the really kind of fresh, zingy element to it. And then I think we could just top with a few coriander leaves.
And one of my favorite bits, and like people might go, this is making it a little bit indulgent. I think it's really important to add that variety of texture. So we have Like this is fresh and juicy, this is more stewy, this is fatty, and then we got the crunch, and then we get the starch. So there's a huge amount of different components and textures that'll make this dish a lot more interesting and kind of just more, wow, alive. A little bit of coriander leaves, and bingo, beautiful.
There she is, beautiful. A Mexican burrito bowl. Took us about 15 minutes to make. 3 or 4 components. The couscous, the chili, the salsa, the guacamole, and then the corn chips. So lovely. Yeah, it really is. There you go. You can eat with the corn chips if you want.
It's a great sharing meal, nice way of component cooking. This will last 3 days in the fridge. All the ingredients really will last 3 days in the fridge. Please share with anyone that needs some Mexican inspiration.
Gracias para vernos y gracias para suscribir.
Y suerte
A
con todo.
nosotros. Janel y suerte.
Gracias, ciao.